Silliman University. Master in Psychology. Good day, I am Raul Lecondulo Panuncio would like to present to you American Psychology and Functionalism. First, let me tell you the learning objectives of our discussion. After the discussions, the participants will be able to develop a deeper understanding of the concept of functionalism, discover the contributions that functionalists have made to psychology in various areas in the U.S., describe the contribution that functionalism has made to psychology as well as its relationship to other psychological theories, explain the various theoretical approaches developed by well-known functionalists and psychologists. First, let's have an overview about psychology. Functionalism was a school of psychology that emerged in the United States in the late 19th and early 20th century. It focused on studying the functions of the mind and how mental processes enable individuals to adapt to their environment. Functionalists believed that the mind should be studied as a whole, rather than breaking it down into isolated components. They emphasized the importance of understanding the purpose of behavior, rather than just describing it. Functionalism had a significant impact on the development of psychology in the United States and was a major force in the field for several decades. The first person I will discuss is Granville Stanley Hall in the year 1884 to 1924. He was an American psychologist and educator who is often referred to as the father of adolescence for his pioneering work in the study of child development in adolescence. Organized the first psychology laboratory in the United States. Founded the first psychology journal, American Journal of Psychology. Helped organize and was first president of the American Psychological Association. He also became the president of Clark University. Hall believes recapitulation theory states that the development of an individual through their lifetime mirrors the evolution of the species. Ideas on developmental psychology were greatly influenced by this theory. His work in this area did much to stimulate educational psychology and start the child development movement in the United States. To continue with Hall's contribution, Hall had several ideas about adolescence, including ideas about sexual behavior, religious conversion, and sex-segregated schools. He also believed that adolescence was a good time to study human instinctual makeup. Hall also focused on the study developmental psychology and the end of the life. Adolescence, its psychology and its relations to physiology, anthropology, sociology, sex, crime, religion, and education. Hall's work on adolescence focused on the psychological and physiological changes that occur during this stage of development. He believed that adolescence was a time of storm and stress, characterized by conflict and turmoil, and that the goal of education should be to help young people navigate these challenges and develop into healthy adults. Hall's work helped to establish psychology as a field focused on the study of human behavior and the mind, and he emphasized the importance of studying individuals throughout their lifespan, including childhood and adolescence. Hall became a prominent figure in the early development of psychology as a scientific discipline in the United States. Another notable person in line with functionalism is Francis Cecil Sumner in the 1895 to 1954. He is an American psychologist who is considered the father of black psychology. He was the first African American to receive a PhD in psychology in the United States, which he earned from Clark University in 1920. He was Hall's last graduate student. Argued for segregated higher education, however, evidence indicates that his public statements did not match his private beliefs and activities. This was a pragmatic way to obtain funding for African American higher education. Developed the psychology department at Howard University into a major center for training African American psychologists. Moreover, about Sumner's contribution. Sumner is best known for his work on race relations and his efforts to increase the number of African Americans in the field of psychology. He conducted research on racial prejudice and discrimination and argued that racism was not just a personal problem but a systemic issue that needed to be addressed through social and political change. Overall, Francis Cecil Sumner made significant contributions to the field of psychology and to the fight for racial equality in the United States. Another person in the field of functionalism in psychology, Kenneth Bancroft Clark in the year 1914 to 2005. American psychologist and civil rights activist who is best known for his research on the effects of segregation and racism on children's self-esteem and identity. He was trained with Sumner. Along with his wife, Mamie Phipps Clark, he conducted the landmark doll tests in the 1940s and 1950s, which demonstrated the psychological harm caused by racial segregation and discrimination. Both Clark and his wife, Mamie Phipps Clark, obtained their PhDs from Columbia University. They did pioneer work on the developmental effects of prejudice, discrimination, and segregation on children. Extremely instrumental in the efforts to desegregate the school systems. In recognition of his contributions to psychology and civil rights, Clark received numerous awards and honors, including the National Medal of Freedom in 1994, the highest civilian honor in the United States. By the way, let us continue with Granville Stanley Hall's legacy at Clark University. In 1908, Hall invited prominent European psychologists to Clark for its 20th anniversary. Hall invited Wundt, Freud, and Jung, but Wundt had a prior engagement. Freud remarked that this visit did much to further the acceptance of his theory around the world. Played a significant role in the development of psychology as a scientific discipline in the United States. He is best known for his work in child development, evolutionary theory, and the study of adolescence. Hall's legacy at Clark University, where he was a professor and later president, is significant. In 1888, he founded the first psychological laboratory in the United States at Clark, which served as a model for other institutions. Hall also established the first academic journal dedicated to psychology, the American Journal of Psychology, which is still in publication today. Under Hall's leadership, Clark University became a center for psychological research and education. He brought in many prominent psychologists and scholars to teach and conduct research at Clark, including Sigmund Freud, who gave his only lectures in the United States at the university in 1909. Furthermore, G.S. Hall's legacy at Clark University. In addition to his contributions to psychology, Hall was also instrumental in the development of modern education. He advocated for the importance of child-centered education, which emphasized the individual needs and interests of students, and promoted the use of scientific methods in educational research. Overall, Granville Stanley Hall's legacy at Clark University and in the field of psychology is one of innovation and advancement, and his work has had a lasting impact on both fields. Let us talk about a notable person in the field of psychology. A short glimpse of John Dewey's contribution to functionalism in psychology in the year 1859 to 1952. He is an American philosopher and educator who was a founder of the philosophical movement known as pragmatism, a pioneer in functional psychology, and a leader of the progressive movement in education in the United States. Dewey wrote, "The reflex arc concept in psychology." Many think this marks the formal beginning of functionalism. He proposed that the three elements of the reflex, sensory processes, brain processes, motor response, must be viewed as a coordinated system directed toward a goal. This goal is usually related to the survival of the organism. Influential in creating what came to be called progressive education, which stated that education should be student-oriented and not subject-oriented, and students should learn by doing. Dewey's approach to education emphasized hands-on learning and problem-solving, which aligns with the functionalist view that behavior is adaptive and serves a purpose. In this sense, John Dewey's ideas on education can be seen as a functionalist approach to the study of human behavior. Further, another figure we are about to discuss is James Roland Angell in the 1869 to 1949. Angell presented the three major points of functionalism. First, the functional psychology is interested in mental operations, not conscious elements. Second, the mental processes mediate between the needs of the organism and the environment. Mental functions help the organism survive. Last, mind and body cannot be separated, they act as a unit in an organism's struggle for survival. Okay, I hope you were able to recall these personalities, and let us continue with Harvey Carr in the year 1873 to 1954. Because learning is a major tool used in adjusting to the environment, it was a major concern of functionalism. Carr proposed the adaptive act, which has three components. A motive that acts as a stimulus for behavior, such as Hunger or thirst. An environmental setting or the situation the organism is in. A response that satisfies the motive. He is perhaps best known for his work on animal behavior and his contributions to the development of comparative psychology. Overall, Carr's work on animal behavior and comparative psychology helped to advance the functionalist approach to psychology, which emphasized the study of behavior in terms of its adaptive functions in the context of the individual's environment. Another person to tell you about is James McKen Cattell in the 1860 to 1944. Proposed that psychology should be applying its methods in all human activity because that is what humans do. One of Cattell's most significant contributions to psychology was his development of mental tests and measurements. He believed that by measuring individual differences in cognitive abilities and personality traits, psychologists could gain insights into the nature of human intelligence and personality. Through his many editorships and ownerships of journals, including Psychological Review, he advanced the discipline of psychology and particularly functional psychology. Overall, Cattell's work helped to establish psychology as a scientific discipline in the United States and contributed to the development of many important subfields within psychology, including cognitive psychology, personality psychology, and psychological testing and measurement. Let us move to another figure or functionalist we have. Robert Sessions Woodworth in the year 1869 to 1962. Interested in what and why of people's behavior, particularly motivation. He called his brand of psychology dynamic psychology. He formulated the symbols SOR to include the organism and particularly the organism's motivation. His text, Experimental Psychology, remained the standard text in experimental psychology for 2 decades. Woodworth's work had a significant impact on the development of experimental psychology and helped to shape the field as it exists today. I know you are also very familiar with this person, no other than Edward Lee Thorndike in the year 1874 to 1949. American psychologist who is best known for his work in the field of animal learning and his development of the theory of connectionism, which emphasized the role of trial and error in learning. Used the apparatus called a puzzle box to study trial and error learning using cats. He made the following conclusions. Learning is incremental. Learning occurs automatically without being mediated by thinking. Same principles of learning apply to all mammals. Developed psychology's first major learning theory, which basically combined associationism and hedonism. To continue about his contribution to psychology, Thorndike believes mainly consisted of the law of exercise and the law of effect. The law of effect states the following. If an association is followed by a satisfying state of affairs, it will be strengthened. If it is followed by an annoying state of affairs, it will be weakened. The law of exercise states that the more often an association is practiced, the stronger it becomes. Thorndike went on to abandon the law of exercise and discarded the second part of the law of effect. Identical elements theory of transfer states that the extent to which information learned in one situation will transfer to another situation is determined by the similarity between the two situations. Thorndike also contributed to the development of educational psychology, arguing that learning should be based on the principle of reinforcement, which involves providing rewards or punishments to encourage or discourage certain behaviors. Let's mention about beyond functionalism in psychology. Just remember, functionalism was a school of psychology that focused on understanding the function or purpose of mental processes and behaviors. It emphasized the importance of studying how mental processes and behaviors helped individuals adapt to their environment and fulfill their needs. Beyond functionalism, there have been many other schools of thought in psychology that have emerged and developed over time. Some examples include behaviorism, Gestalt psychology, psychoanalysis, humanistic psychology, and cognitive psychology. These are just a few examples of the many schools of thought in psychology that have emerged beyond functionalism. Each school of thought has its own unique approach and perspective on the study of human behavior and mental processes. And finally, functionalism had a significant impact on the development of psychology in the United States, particularly in the areas of educational psychology and animal behavior. It also paved the way for the development of behaviorism, which focused on observable behaviors and their relationship to the environment. I hope you were able to recall the significant persons when we talk about functionalism in psychology. Thank you for listening. Once again I'm Raul Lecondula Penuncial presenting.